With MotoGP on its mid-season break, I thought it would be a good idea to go and look back through each rider's first half of the season. So in this video, I'm going to do just that and give them a grade from A+ down to F. Each grade is not given for the last few races, but looks at how each rider has done over the past 11 races. This means that some riders who have gotten better in the last few rounds may get a lower grade than you expect based on their most recent form. The grade is based on how the individual has done relative to their teammates, expectation at the start of the season, and against things like injury and other factors that may detract from their performances. A C is given for a rider achieving roughly what we expect, and up towards A if they exceed those expectations, or down towards F for being below expectations. Obviously these scores are subjective, so let me know in the comments how much you agree or disagree with my grading. So let's not waste any more time and get straight into it, in alphabetical order of the manufacturers. Aprilia. I would not have expected at the start of the season that Aleix Espargaro would sit second in the title standings, but here he is, and the fact that he is now only sitting 21 points behind Fabio shows how consistent he has been as a competitor so far. The results have been impressive, with highlights including the race win in Argentina, 4 straight third-place finishes, pole positions in Argentina and Catalonia, and most recently that recovery ride in Assen. It's been a great first half of the season for Aleix, and so I give him an A+. Maverick's 1-year anniversary of leaving Yamaha has just come and gone, and been celebrated with a third-place finish. In the past 2 rounds he has clearly found something, and with confidence comes speed with Maverick, so it seems we'll likely see more from him in the future. But this isn't about what is to come, but what has been. And what has been are surprisingly consistent results. Top Gun has been outgunned by his teammate, but has scored in 9 out of 11 rounds. However, despite this, his teammate has been beating him consistently, and so the best I feel I can give him is a C+. But with him looking happy and confident on that Aprilia, I see that improving for the end of the year. Ducati. Johann Zarco has been doing a good job this year. He has been on the podium 4 times, 2 second and 2 third place finishes, which is pretty solid, and he is currently the top Ducati rider. However, Zarco at this point in last year's season had more points, 132 compared to this year's 114. The latest result in Assen also was not one of a championship contender, as he crossed the line in 13th place. So I give him a B+ for a decently consistent season and for leading the Ducati charge, which was not expected of him. Pecco Bagnaia should be in the title fight this year. Yes, he has closed in 25 points to the top after Assen and has achieved 3 wins in the season so far, but to sit 66 points behind the title leader isn't really good enough for someone who was expected to fight for the title lead pre-season. When you consider the number of good points-paying positions that Bagnaia has thrown away, you see that his season so far just hasn't been up to snuff. He crashed out from second in Le Mans, threw away a likely second at the Sachsenring, and even going back to Qatar where he missed out on finishing in the top 10, it just hasn't been good enough from him. Crashes and mistakes of course happen, but there have been too many from Bagnaia so far this year, and that's why I have to give him a D. Enea Bastianini started what is only his second season in the MotoGP class amazingly, with a win. But his results since have been a yo-yo, as he bounced between wins, retirements, and finishing below 10th place. However, given that it is just his second season in the Premier class, I have to give him kudos for his 3 race wins. I would not have expected him to win 3 races at all this season, so I give Bastianini an A. However, for the second half of the season, he is going to have to turn that consistency around. He has shown that he's got the ability to win, and now he has to show that he can pick up the points even on his off days. Jack Miller is behind where I think he should be in the standings at this point of the season. However, the results do not necessarily show how competitive the Australian has been in many of the races, as he has been pipped for podiums a couple of times this season, with Jerez and of course Assen springing to mind. Bad luck at Qatar ruined his chance to fight from his 4th place starting position, as his bike had an electrical issue. He has also achieved a podium despite a long lap penalty at the Sachsenring, and got close to achieving the same at Assen. Of course, there have been 3 races, Argentina, Mugello and Catalonia, where Jack only just scraped points. With everything considered, I'm going to have to give Jack a C, as despite some pretty good recovery rides, podiums and good results this season, he should not be having races where he is fighting for 14th or 15th place. Jorge Martin was the pre-season favourite for that second factory Ducati seat. He'd done a pretty good job in 2021 with 4 pole positions, the first in just his second race, 4 podiums and a first race win in his rookie season. He had done a great job. This year has been less impressive. 4 DNFs and scoring points in 6 out of 11 races is not a great bid for a factory Ducati seat, particularly with Bastianini winning 3 times. The last 4 races have been better as he's finished in the points for all of them with a podium coming in Catalonia. Of course, we do have to consider that the GP22 struggled to get started at the start of the season, and Jorge is still less experienced than some of his fellow Ducati riders. However, overall I believe it's been a pretty middling season so far for Jorge, so I'm going to give him a C. Marco Bezzecchi had a great race in Assen, finishing an impressive second and gaining the VR46 team's first podium. Bez leads the Rookies Championship and has been doing a good job of collecting points. There have been some tip-offs as he crashed out of the first round and finished well outside of the points in the second round, but from there Bez has done what he needs to do, learning and improving, all of which was rewarded with his podium at Assen. Overall, he's been doing very well in qualifying, in the top 10 and sometimes higher, so I'm going to give him a B for his efforts. Luca Marini, Rossi's half-brother, started out the season in a similar-ish way to his 2021 season. 3 times in the points was good, although it was embarrassing for the Argentinian round when he qualified on the front row but fell back to 11th place in the race, whilst his rookie teammate, who started in 17th, came through to finish in 9th. But between French and German Grand Prix rounds, Marini hit a purple patch of top 10 finishes, collecting good points. He also continued his record of never crashing out of a MotoGP race, which is pretty impressive. But Marini does sit behind his teammate in the standings, and whilst his fellow class of 2021 rookies have gone on to podiums and wins, Marini still has achieved neither. All of this means that I give him a C, as he is the most experienced rider in that team and should be sitting ahead of his teammate. Fabio Di Giannantonio was the second to last rookie to score points this season, taking until the 7th round in France to pick up his first haul of points, as he crossed the line in 13th place. The next round was the madness at Mugello, where DG used the experience of Q1 to take pole position. He ended up in 11th in that race. He has been in the points 2 more times since Italy as he slowly finds his feet in the MotoGP paddock. Given that not a lot was expected of him, or at least I didn't expect much, Fabio has been doing a solid job. But with no standout results in races, I'm going to have to give him a C+, as he has clearly been improving since the start of the season, but hasn't been blowing my mind. Honda. Marc Marquez, despite missing the last 3 rounds, is still the lead Honda rider. The 8 times world champion started the season well as he was close to a podium in Qatar as he finished 5th. A good return after missing the end of last season due to diplopia. That diplopia would return after a monster high side at the Indonesian round. Missing the Argentinian round, Marquez would return for the round at Kota, dropping to last off the line in the race and then pushing all the way back through to 6th. It was a great ride, and you have to wonder, had the start been better, could he have gone for yet another win around one of his favourite tracks? We shall never know. From Kota on, Marquez finished the next 5 races with a 4th as his best result, 2 more 6th place finishes and a 10th in Mugello. Considering that Marc achieved these results with an arm that was rotated 30 degrees from where it should be, he did a pretty incredible job. So, for continuing to fight on and doing as well as he did, I'm giving Marc an A. Taka Nakagami sits as the second top Honda rider this year, having just over 2/3 of the points of Marc Marquez. There's been no standout ride such as a podium from Taka so far. Nakagami needed to get some really good results in the first half of the season as his seat is under threat from the highly impressive rider in Moto 2, Ayogura. Taka has come home in 7th twice this season and has a lowest finishing result of 19th, which is not what he needs to defend his seat. So far it has been almost exactly what you'd have expected in pre-season from Taka Nakagami, and so I'm going to have to give him a C, as his results have been pretty average and he hasn't really shown the highs that he needs to allow him to keep his seat. Pol Espargaro started his year with a 3rd place finish at Qatar, which would have made him very happy with the choice he made back in 2020 to go to Honda, as the bike looked like it had made a step forward. Of course, Pol Espargaro wouldn't have known then that that one race would account for 40% of his points scored by the 11th round. He hasn't finished in the top 10 since, retiring from 3 rounds and not starting due to injury at Assen. Pol's season has been truly terrible, and whilst yes, the bike has not been very good, some of the results must lie on him as he sits behind Taka Nakagami in the standings, despite the Japanese rider hardly having anything more than an average season so far. All of this means that I give Pol an F. Alex Marquez has struggled this year, not that that's anything particularly new. Alex has been beaten by his teammate Nakagami in the past few seasons in the sport and sits 15 points behind so far this year. This was the year where, in my view, Alex needed to show something and at the very least beat his teammate. The high of this season so far is finishing 7th in Portimao, and in most of the races he's only been picking up 1 or 2 points. Because of all of this, I have to give Alex Marquez a D for his season so far. Again, this year's Honda has been difficult, but as an ex-Moto2 world champion and now in his 3rd year of the sport, I expected Alex to show something more. KTM. Brad Binder started the season pretty well, achieving 2nd place in Qatar. Whilst the rest of the season so far hasn't yielded any more podiums, Brad has still been doing an excellent job. The guy has some serious talent, and it seems that no matter how far down the grid he qualifies, he almost always finds his way into 7th or 8th place by the finish line. In the head-to-head between himself and his teammate, Brad has beaten Oliveira 9 out of 11 times. With 1 DNF in Portugal and a lowest finishing result of 12th in the US, Brad has not been faultless in his record of picking up top 10s, but in my view, they are blips on what has been an awesome season so far, particularly as he's on a bike which is by no means the most competitive on the grid. Brad has been doing a great job with his KTM machinery, and I give him an A for his work. Miguel Oliveira started the season with a crash and then a win. Considering that his goal for this season was to be less spiky, the first 7 rounds of the year didn't look too good, as he went from his win to 13th place finish, and then an 18th and pointless finish at Kota, 5th in his home race, and then back down to 12th in Jerez. He then retired in France. However, since that race in Le Mans, he has found Binder-esque consistency, crossing the line in 9th in 4 straight races. That being said, he also sits 22 points and 4 places down on his teammate in the standings. So I'm going to have to give Miguel a C, although the recent consistency, if it continues, could see the Portuguese rider improve that grade for the end of the season. Remy Gardner started the season with a point and a 15th place finish at Qatar, and since then has only retired once, which is great as he gains experience in the Premier class. The high for the 2021 Moto2 World Champion was no doubt the 11th place finish in the Catalan Grand Prix. He leads his teammate in the standings, which of course is the first goal of any rider, and in my view has been doing a decent job. It is impossible to compare Remy to any of the other rookies on Ducatis, as those bikes are in a very different league at the moment, and so I'm going to give him a C for the decent work he appears to have done so far. Raul Fernandez took 9 rounds to score points. Undoubtedly very talented, Raul may be regretting moving to Tech 3 KTM this year and not staying in Moto 2, as he probably would have dominated the field. With only 2 point scoring finishes, a 12th and a 15th, Raul has obviously not gelled with the KTM and is apparently looking to the greener and more Italian pastures of Aprilia RNF. Sitting last in the standings for full-time riders and taking as long as he did to get points whilst his teammate managed to collect them much sooner, I have to give Raul a D, despite the fact that I really rate him as a rider. Suzuki. Joan Mir has been the rider that I've been supporting most this year, and well, I'm pretty disappointed. The Suzuki looked really good at Qatar, they had gained lots of top speed and looked set to have another competitive year. I expected Mir to take advantage of this and perhaps get a few wins this season. The consistency in the early stages was good, but whilst his teammate picked up podiums, Mir could only manage 4ths and 6ths. Since Suzuki's statement that they are leaving MotoGP, the season has only unravelled further as Mir crashed out in 3 of the last 5 races and still hasn't achieved a podium. For a champion to go this far into a season with what should still be a pretty competitive bike at tracks that rider and team have been successful in the past and not get even 1 podium, to me, that's pretty bad. But that early consistency from Mir and the fact that he leads his teammate saves him from an F, and instead gets a D. Alex Rins started the season well. The first 5 rounds saw no finish lower than 7th and 2 podiums. He has had some great rides this season, notably in Portugal, but they stopped after Suzuki announced it was leaving the sport. Jerez, France and Italy were all low points of Alex's season, as they yielded no points, and in my view, all his fault in one way or the other. However, he also missed out on points from the round in Catalunya, as he was cleaned out at turn 1 and the subsequent injury left him unable to compete in the German GP. I'm going to give Alex a C+, which given his early form, mistakes and bad luck, I believe is fair. Yamaha. Fabio Quartararo has taken 3 wins and 6 podiums so far this season. Despite the crash in the recent race at Assen, Fabio has been consistently outriding his Yamaha and has put on a stellar title defence, whilst those whom I expected in the pre-season to challenge him, such as Mir or Bagnaia, have faltered. Therefore I have to give him an A+, as his consistency and performance level has been just that impressive. And there isn't really a lot more to say. Fabio's been doing an incredible job so far this year. Franco Morbidelli was an amazing rider back in 2020, as he finished 3rd in the standings. After a knee injury in 2021, however, he has not ever really been able to recapture that form. Morbidelli started the season with an 11th place finish and then achieved 7th in Indonesia. Aside from that, he has crossed the line outside of the top 10 in each race that he has finished, generally collecting 1 or 2 points per round. This leaves him with 25 points as of the summer break, whilst his teammate leads the championship with nearly 7 times the number of points. It has been a hard first half of the season for Morbidelli, and because there has been no sign of improvement, I have to give him an F. With his experience, I would expect that by now he would have broken into the top 10 a couple of more times at the very least, but he simply hasn't been delivering or showing any progress at all. Little was expected of Darryn Binder when he arrived in MotoGP, but he has done alright considering his lack of experience. Scoring points on his second outing in Mandalika was impressive, as he collected 10th place on his first time in the wet on a MotoGP bike. He also picked up points at Catalunya, coming home in 12th. He has beaten Morbidelli in a couple of rounds, Mugello being notable for one, as he beat Franco despite a long lap penalty. Darryn also sits ahead of Andrea Dovizioso in the standings, and so I'm going to give him a B+ for his efforts. Andrea Dovizioso will not be on the grid next year. This first half of the season has been atrocious for him. He was promised the bike that took Quartararo to the title last year, but very quickly found out that only Fabio can ride it. With only 10 points to his name and a highest finishing position of 11th, Andrea Dovizioso sits behind his rookie teammate and as the last Yamaha rider in the title standings. It means that Andrea gets an F. It's a terrible season for him and will probably be his last. Not the way a storied career in MotoGP such as his should really end, but it seems like it will this year. Alright, that's a bit of a sad note to end on, but it is the end of this very long video. If you have watched all of it, thank you very much. And since you obviously enjoyed it enough, I'd appreciate you liking and subscribing. Obviously, I haven't rated Stefan Bradl, Michele Pero, and Lorenzo Salvadori. They haven't competed in enough races for me to really worry about it, but maybe I'll look at them at the end of the year. I just want to thank you again for watching. This is a very long video, so yeah, if you made it to the end, thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed. Goodbye.